So about a month ago, I learned about the brand new Bad Boy Le Parfum by Carolina Herrera, and I thought to myself, is it worth buying it from one of these websites from overseas where you incur all of these costs and you got to pay an exorbitant amount for the shipping? And I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to have some patience. It will eventually come out in the States. And about a week and a half ago, it became available on Macy's website. So I purchased it on the same exact date that it became available. It's finally here. I spent some time with it, and I have a really good opinion about it, and my convictions have been strengthened. And so I'm excited to give you my thoughts on the new Bad Boy Le Parfum by Carolina Herrera. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review of Bad Boy Le Parfum by Carolina Herrera, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner, and of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do put out these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. So, of course, I originally purchased the original Bad Boy by Carolina Herrera when it first became available, and I actually wore this one quite a bit. I know it's kind of hard to tell because you have a very dark bottle here, albeit a little transparent, but I really enjoy this one. So this is a compliment getter. It has that chocolatey nuance. It's woodsy, it's clean, it's masculine. It also smells very contemporary, and I love the fact that they were able to utilize a particular type of sweetness that is not the conventional and traditional coumarin, tonka bean, vanilla combination that you see in so many fragrances nowadays. So here we have the Le Parfum version, and with a name like Le Parfum, you kind of expect this to be a stronger concentration. Sometimes we're not sure if they're going to tinker or play around with the formula to omit certain notes, reintroduce other notes, so on and so forth. But this one, there has been a little bit of tinkering around, so I'm excited to really break down the scent as best as I can and as best as my nose can do to communicate it to my loyal subscribers. And I'm hoping that you take something of value from this video. But before we start talking about the smell, let's start things off with the presentation. So as soon as this fragrance opens up, there is this bright green aromatic component to it that I think is really interesting. And let's just say that they utilized an ingredient in here that is a bit controversial, something that is enjoyed by mostly adults, and something that may not necessarily be legal, hereafter referred to as a green note. I think you have a good idea of what I mean here. But you still have the chocolate in the base from the original Bad Boy. And I actually sprayed them both just to give myself a good impression of the two. And this is not going to be a comparison video, but at the very least, I do want to mention that there is something in here that does come across a little bit fresher than the original. And I suppose the reason why I say that is because with the original, you're very quick to notice that powdery, slightly dusty, chocolatey cocoa thing that's residing in the base, and that really seems to be the star player of the composition. With this one, it's a little bit herbal, it's a little bit aromatic, it's a little bit dark and mysterious at the same time, but it still has that undertone of chocolatey warmth from the original that makes this a true flanker. Now, I thought about it, and I also considered other fragrances that utilize a similar green note. And there is another fragrance by Carolina Herrera, part of the 212 line, and I think it's called Party Fever. I actually own that one. I have reviewed that one. I'm going to leave an annotation or a card to it up here if you're interested in checking that one out. Very sort of translucent green bottle, really cool presentation as a matter of fact. But I felt like that note was utilized in a weak way in that fragrance. Here, it actually does start to come through. Now, it's not as strong as fragrances like Smoke for the Soul by Kilian Paris, or even Kinski, which was composed by Geza Schoen, a German perfumer. Here, it's not that strong, but I think it shares the stage quite nicely with some of the other ingredients that are in here. So it's a little gourmandy, but not overly so. You still have the freshness in the opening. You have the citrusy appeal to it, a little bit of like a tart grapefruit vibe also going on in this fragrance. And of course, you have a little bit of like a dark green vetiver thing going on in the base. And I really do feel as though the vetiver is used in conjunction with that green herbal ingredient that's in here. But I think the composition overall is definitely fitting of the name Bad Boy in a literal sense and in a figurative sense, both connotatively and denotatively. And I think that that's what I like about this one. You know, when you think about the original Bad Boy, it was actually rather calm, rather smooth. There was nothing dubious or nefarious about it. But with this one, given the note that it contains, I do think that this one is a little bit more on the mischievous side, if you will. So in that sense, I actually quite enjoy this one, and I think this is an awesome flanker to the original one. However, my only word of caution, or my critique, if you will, is that I would be 9 times out of 10, I would feel more comfortable recommending the original versus this one, because I feel like many people don't want to go out in public smelling like this, and so they might give it that consideration of, oh, if I'm wearing it in an office, is somebody going to think something inappropriate of me, or is somebody going to suspect that I may have been engaging in some lewd activities, if you will. But in any case, I do think that this is a really fascinating and a really interesting composition, and I know it's been done on the designer side a few times before. I know one of the Mugler colognes by Thierry Mugler, I forget which one it is, but one of them actually utilizes that green note that we're referring to. And of course, the other Carolina Herrera fragrance, Party Fever, also utilizes that note. But I feel like in this one, it's done quite strongly and noticeably, while still not making it the star player of the composition. And so I really value and I have a lot of respect for what Carolina Herrera did here. And especially in a day and age when everybody is following the trends and everybody is looking to not push the boundaries too much and do something that is accepted and something that is safe and something that'll resonate with consumers just because they're a fan of XYZ fragrance, and so this one is only a subtle twist of that DNA. I like that Carolina Herrera said, you know what, we're going to put out something unique, we're going to put out something different, but also something that is very likable, very wearable. And in my personal opinion, I wore this one like 3 days in a row. I love it. I'm really enjoying it just because it's such a breath of fresh air. It's such a change of pace. And I definitely have to congratulate Carolina Herrera for making this fragrance. I paid $80-something for it. In my opinion, it's money very well spent. And I do look forward to wearing this fragrance a lot more in the coming months, especially since I don't think that this one is a fall and winter exclusive fragrance. One might say that about the original just because of that chocolatey nuance. You think of chocolate, you think of this dark, deep, sweet, gourmand richness that is probably more suitable for the colder weather. I think this one is far more versatile, so I think it wins in multiple regards. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness in the overall smell, really unique smell. I know that this has been done before and they're not the first brand or the first fragrance in the industry to utilize this note, but the way that it's been done in here with a lot of the other ingredients like the cocoa and the grapefruit and the vetiver is just a very welcoming composition while still daring to do things a little bit differently and not being afraid to push the envelope, which I think is really interesting. Overall smell is very pleasant. However, I wouldn't recommend this one with the same level of comfort that I would recommend the original. So just keep that in mind. Longevity was 8 hours on my skin, so Le Parfum it is, and Le Parfum, it gives you that performance of a Parfum fragrance, and I think in the 8 or 9 hour range is pretty much average in what I would expect. Projection on this one was great for the first 2 hours of application. I wouldn't say really radiated beyond an arm's length, but the performance was really good. Versatility is great, I think any season, any occasion, but just be mindful of the fact that some people might be suspicious of you doing something underhand or something that is not necessarily legal, let's say. So just as long as you remain conscientious of that, I think you can get away with wearing this one. Just, know who you're going to be surrounding yourself with. And so that is something certainly to pay attention to. And then, of course, I think that this one is perfectly unisex, despite the fact that it's marketed for men. And I can see somebody who's young appreciating this, as well as somebody who's a little bit older as well. In terms of the presentation, I actually quite like the presentation of the original, that sort of glossy, lustrous look, and I think the gold hardware is really cool here, the stand. This one is all black and it's matte, and so it does not have any light reflective properties, but nevertheless, I do like the presentation of it. I know some people might say the whole lightning bolt thing is kitschy. I actually think it's not as kitschy as a trophy cup or as a gold bullion, and so I think this one is a step in the right direction. So my final verdict on Bad Boy Le Parfum by Carolina Herrera is this is a darker, more mysterious and bolder and more brazen version of the original. And if you are a fan of the note breakdown, I think it's pretty accurate and pretty transparent in what it says. Certain notes are listed. I do actually pick up on those notes. I think it's a really interesting composition, and I'm glad that somebody was bold enough to do this. And I hope that this fragrance retains its popularity, and I hope that it's becomes quite successful in the months/years to come. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for joining me in today's review. That was my fragrance review of Bad Boy Le Parfum by Carolina Herrera. If you own or have tried this fragrance or the original, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to subscribe for future videos. If you did take something of value from this video, all you have to do is click on that red subscribe button in the corner. And while you're at it, make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Also, if you would like to see me do a comparison video between the Le Parfum and the original, leave a comment down below as well. Let me know that you're interested, and I will start working on that soon. Thanks again for watching. Love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.